Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Opena Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Sodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanacharya Jamunatira Vanacharya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanacharya Yamuna tira vanachari Yamuna tira vanachari Jam Vishnupad Paramahansa Prabhujakacharya Astatir Sutta Shishimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnavas Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavana Ki Jai Shri Maya Purnavidam Ki Jai Gangamaya Ki Jai Jamunamaya Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Gau Premanandi All glorious summer devotees, all glorious summer devotees, all glorious summer devotees. All glorious Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. I'm surprised. We get 10 devotees in the ashram, only 4 are here. Where is everybody? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 3, text number 3. And these are long prose, so I'm just going to read the translation and the purport. Lord Vishnu appeared before King Nabhi with 4 arms. He was very bright, and he appeared to be the best of all personalities. Around the lower portion of his body he wore a yellow silken garment. On his chest was the mark of Srivatsa, which always displays beauty. It's a hair. It's a hair, Srivatsa. Always displays beauty. Interesting, huh? He carried a conch shell, lotus flower, disc, and club. And he wore a garland of forest flowers and the Kaustuba gem. He was beautifully decorated with a helmet, earrings, bangles, belt, pearl necklace, armlets, ankle bells, and other bodily ornaments bedecked with radiant jewels. Seeing the Lord present before them, King Nabhi and his priests and associates felt just like poor people who have suddenly attained great riches. They received the Lord and respectfully bent their heads and offered him things in worship. Purport. It is distinctly mentioned here that the Supreme Personality of Godhead did not appear as an ordinary human being. He appeared before King Nabhi and his associates as the best of all personalities, Purushottama. As stated in the Vedas, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is also a living being, but he is a supreme living being. In Bhagavad-gita 7.7, Lord Krsna himself says, mattaḥ parataraṁ nānyat kiñcid asti dhanañjaya. O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. No one is more attractive or more authoritative than Lord Krsna. That is one of the differences between God and an ordinary living being. According to this description of the transcendental body of Lord Vishnu, the Lord can easily be distinguished from all other living beings. Consequently, Maharaj Nabhi and his priests and associates all offered the Lord obeisances and began to worship him with various things. as stated in the Bhagavad-gita, lam dvadbha chaparam labnam manyate harikam tataha. That is, quote, upon gaining this, one thinks there is no greater gain, unquote. When one realizes God and sees the Lord face to face, one certainly thinks that he has gained the best of all things. Raso yasya param drisva nivartate. When one experiences a higher taste, his consciousness is fixed. After seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one ceases to be attracted by anything material. One then remains steady in his worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukram Kotavachalang Pangunlang Hayate Grim Yet Kripa Taraham Bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam Vanchikalpa Tubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In the purport here, Srila Prabhupada mentions that Krishna, he is not an ordinary human being. There's many living entities. How many are there? Unlimited. So many. Can't even come close to understanding how many spirit souls there are. But there's one spirit soul, Supreme Spirit, Krishna. He maintains everyone else. That's Krishna. Even he maintains the atheist, people that are against God. He also maintains them. Maintains the birds and the animals and insects. All living entities are being maintained by Krishna. And there's a saying that God, he gives and he gives and he gives, and then he forgives. And we get and we get and we get and we forget. So we should be very grateful to what Krishna is giving. Otherwise we're great fools. Right? We should be very grateful for what Krishna is giving us. He's very kind. Unlimitedly kind. Everybody likes to be around kind people. Right? Krishna is unlimitedly kind. He's so kind that even people that tried to kill him, they'd be liberated. Like in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, so many people there opposed Krishna and the Pandavas. Millions of them. But they all went back to Godhead. Got their original forms in the spiritual world. And Putana tried to kill him. She became a nurse in the spiritual world. So Krishna is unlimitedly kind. But sometimes people say, well, if there's a God, then why is he so cruel? Sends us here and we got all this, these troubles that we have to experience, death and old age and so much anxiety. Why is he allowing all this suffering? That's karma. Everybody gets what they deserve. Some people, they're born into very wealthy families. Some people are born into poor families. It's due to their past activities that they're in such a situation. Which Krishna, he organizes all this karma. But he's fair. It's like if someone commits some crime and he goes before the judge and the judge sentences him to 10 years in jail, it's not the judge's fault. Right? Someone can, hey, what kind of a judge are you? You know, putting him in jail for 10 years. Well, the guy killed somebody. You know? He deserved it. So Krishna, he's fair and he's kind, and he owns everything. He's very kind. He's very benevolent, and it's stated in the I think in the Nectar of Devotion, Isavashamidang sarvam yakiñcid jagatyam jiga, that everything that exists is owned and controlled by Krishna. But he's so kind that he allows us to use his things. But everything belongs to Krishna. Even these bodies. We're always here, we're not this body. Right? But these bodies belong to Krishna. He created them. They belong to Krishna, and therefore they should be utilized in the service of Krishna. Right? Everything that can be utilized in the service of Krishna should be utilized in the service of Krishna. Yeah. And so many things can be used in the service of Krishna. Yeah. It's like there was one time a bhakta brought something to Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada said that when you go to the spiritual master, you should bring something for him. This is back in 1966 when devotees didn't know very much. So this person brought this old blanket, Muchi blanket. Yeah. He didn't know any better. Yes, Prabhupada, you said we should bring something to you whenever we come. So he brought this over, and Prabhupada said, "This thing is useless. You know, what do you bring this thing here?" And he felt a little bad. But then when we came back the next time, it was being used for devotees to sit on. So Prabhupada said, "No, let's utilize it properly." And one time there was somebody had distributed, somehow there was these leaflets that were that devotees had. Yeah, you can close it, actually. There was some leaflets from another group or something. Somehow they ended up at the temple, and devotees showed Prabhupada. Prabhupada, should we throw them away? He said, no, use them as plates. Utilization, utility is the principle. Okay. So many things can be utilized in the service of Krishna. Yeah. But we should understand everything belongs to Krishna. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a nice conversation between King Yudhisthira and Bhishma. And Bhishma, he said, he's so intelligent, such a great devotee. He said, counteraction by detachment. He elaborated on this. Counteraction by detachment. We counteract Maya by detachment. Yeah. When we think things belong to us and we want to enjoy them, we try to get things to try to enjoy. But if we're detached, then we could counteract this Maya, this illusion. So many people that want to get so many things, and they think that by getting these things, then I'll be happy. But no. This is the illusion. We'll be satisfied when we surrender to Krishna. When we understand that everything belongs to Krishna, and we utilize everything in the service of Krishna. This is counteraction of Maya. And then he says, interaction by attachment. Interaction by attachment. Interesting statement there. If we become attached to Krishna, then we could have nice interaction with Krishna. If we're not attached to Krishna, then how can there be any nice interaction with Krishna? So we're trying to become detached from this material world, just like Lord Chaitanya came in this world, and there was a great devotee, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who composed a very nice verse: Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Siksarthameka Purusha Purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sariradhari Kripambudhir Yastam Mahambapedye. That Lord Chaitanya has come because he's an ocean of mercy, and he has come to teach us detachment. Detachment from materialistic life, knowledge, and ultimately love for Krishna. So this is the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he's teaching us to be detached and to be attached. Attached to Krishna. Yeah. And when we become completely attached to Krishna, then we made it. We reached the finish line. Yeah. We've reached the goal. So this is the goal. To be attached to Krishna and detached from Maya. So in this purport, Prabhupada also mentions a very important verse: Yam ladva chaparam labdham manyate nadi kamdata yasman stito nadukena gurunapi vachalyate. That having gained the happiness of Krishna consciousness, one thinks there's no greater gain. And although engaged in all different types of activities, he's never entangled. Very important verse in the Bhagavad-gita. So if we gain the happiness of Krishna consciousness, then we're not going to be interested in anything in this world. We've gained the highest profit. Everybody's interested in profit in this world, right? People want to become very wealthy. Get more and more money, become a millionaire, and then you want to have $10 million, and they want to get more and more. People are interested in profit, but the highest profit is to attain happiness, inner happiness, in the service of Krishna. There's no greater happiness. And therefore this verse goes on to say that he's completely satisfied. And even though he may be engaged in so many things, he's never entangled, he's never bewildered. So actually today is the disappearance day of Rupa Goswami, who attained this highest happiness of pure devotional service. Very special soul. He was actually a minister under the Nawab Hussain Shah, and he was, kind of like, he was like the prime minister. He was a big personality. And his brother Sanatana Goswami, he was also a minister. Excuse me. But both of them, they gave everything up. And they went to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How did they go to them? In a very humble way, with straw in their teeth. Yeah. This is the sign of humility. The straw is the ground, it's dirty. You put that in between your teeth, and you go before a senior, and you offer respects. So that's what they did. And Rupa Goswami, he was so advanced, he was so attached to Lord Chaitanya, he was so dear to Lord Chaitanya, that Lord Chaitanya in Prayag, he spoke to him for 10 days continuously. And from that came the Bhakti-rasamrta sindhu, the nectar of devotion. And it's described that Rupa Goswami, when he was on the planet, was the most intelligent person on the planet, except for when Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda were on the planet. Very intelligent. I think he wrote like 100,000 verses, I think it was. Something like that. So many books he wrote. Very, very great acharya. And I think he was a Rupa Manjari in the spiritual world. And it stated, Nana Shastra Vichara Naika Nipunao Sadharma Sangstapakao, that the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, they are scrutinizingly studying all the Vedic literatures with the aim of establishing religious principles throughout the world. So he was writing so that we can give this knowledge out to others. And now the nectar of devotion is being distributed all over the world. Yeah. People are hearing about the glories of Krishna. Like quite often when I'm on book distribution, I engage Hindus. And quite often they have the Bhagavad-gita, then I offer them the Krishna book, and sometimes they have that also. I said, whoa, you probably don't have this, the nectar of devotion. You know, this is the pastimes of Krishna. The wonderful pastimes of Krishna you probably never heard before. You know, they become excited. Oh, really? So they take a nectar of devotion. And some devotees, they specifically appreciate distributing the nectar of devotion, to give people this opportunity to hear the glories of Krishna. People don't know who God is. They don't know what are the activities of God. So these books that we're distributing, they explain the activities of God, the wonderful activities of Krishna. Satang prasanghang mama virya sangvado bhavanti ritkarna vasayanakata sajosana das pavargi vartmani sradharatir bhakti anukramisiti. And devotees of the Lord, from hearing these glories of Krishna, these wonderful pastimes of Krishna, they become inspired to serve Krishna. And they gain great faith. Shraddha, you get faith in Krishna. Yeah. And sometimes people, they get our books, and they read it, and they get great faith in Krishna. Yeah. Just like this lady Victoria, she told me she read the Bhagavad-gita and the entire Gita in 7 days. Yeah. Gained great faith in Krishna. Yeah. So many people, they're gaining faith in Krishna by hearing the message of Krishna. Shraddha-rati, and then one gets a taste. You get a taste for serving Krishna, for thinking of Krishna, by hearing about Krishna. And then eventually, bhakti, we attain love for Krishna. Bhakti parusana bhava virakti. It's described that just as when one eats, 3 things simultaneously occur. You become satisfied if it tastes nice. Generally it tastes nice, prasadam. You get nourishment and eventually become detached. So by engaging in devotional service, we get a pleasure. We get some pleasure. We get a profit, internal profit. Some pleasure from serving Krishna. Yeah. And we get realization of Krishna. Yeah. Just like sometimes people say that there's no God. But devotees, they get realization of Krishna. We get realization of Krishna. So this is evidence of the existence of Krishna. one atheist the other day. He said, "No, there's too much evidence of the non-existence of God." But how do you show the evidence of the non-existence of something? There it is. What's the experience? How do you experience the non-existence of something? It's just so much mental speculation. Yeah. What's the experience? But devotees experience the existence of Krishna. And therefore they continue year after year, decade after decade of serving Krishna, because there's an experience there. There's some happiness there. There's some pleasure there. So Rupa Goswami, he had some interesting pastimes. There was one instance where when Rupa Goswami was in Vrindavana, there was a scholar that came to Vrindavana. Now in India, the big competition is scholarship. In America here, it's it's usually wrestling or boxing or sports, or this is the competition, some type of sport. This is the competition throughout the world, some type of sport. But in India, it's scholarship. This is the competition. So there's scholars. They would go around and try and defeat different scholars, and sometimes they're called Digvijayi, and they would victory everywhere. Yeah. So this one scholar came to Vrindavana, and he challenged Rupa Goswami to a debate. And Rupa Goswami, not interested. Some, competition, to show that I'm a better scholar. He said, "No, I'm not interested." "Okay, then if you don't debate with me, then you're defeated. So you should sign your name here." "Yeah, all right." He signed his name there. Detached, yeah. So then he also went to Sanatana Goswami, challenged him for a debate. "No, I'm not interested." "All right, then you're defeated. Then just sign your name." "Okay, I'll sign it." And then he went to Jiva Goswami. Now these are the scholars in Vrindavana. He said, "Look, your uncles, they've accepted defeat. Look, they signed. So you want to challenge me? You want to debate?" And this person was so puffed up, because now he had the signatures of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. He said, "Okay, let's debate." Completely smashed him, completely defeated him, just made him look ridiculous, Because Jiva Goswami, it's described that after Rupa Goswami left this world, Jiva Goswami, he became the most intelligent person. And he was just like, phew, also super, super intelligent. So when Rupa Goswami found out that he had debated with this scholar, he was a little disgusted and disappointed that you'd waste your time, debating with this person that's just, into false prestige. So he exiled him from Vrindavana, sent him to Mathura. Had to leave Vrindavana. Of course, Mathura is also kind of Vrindavana, but he was sent away for a year. And then Sanatana Goswami said, Rupa Goswami, I don't know if you call him Goswami, maybe. But he said, a devotee is Jivadoy. And Jivadoy means compassionate to the living entity. So you sent Jiva Goswami away. You should be Jivadoya. You should be compassionate to Jiva Goswami. Allow him to come back. And Rupa Goswami understood that his brother, which is his elder brother, and considered to be his guru as well, is not pleased with his exiling Jiva Goswami. So he invited him back. So Jiva Goswami came back. But yeah, very, very exalted devotee, Rupa Goswami. And therefore it's said that we are rupanugas. were trying to be followers of Rupa Goswami. Such a wonderful example of a devotee. Good example to follow. Very strict in his Krishna consciousness. So today is also the disappearance day of Gauridas Pandit. And I found something in ISKCON Desire Tree of the pastimes of Gauridas Pandit. He is actually he's a very, another great Vaishnava. So we're going to read from this here. One day, the two lords, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, came to Kalna from Santipur by boat, paddling it themselves. They were doing the paddling. I guess they didn't have anybody else there. It was just Lord Chaitanya kept the oar in his hand, and when he entered Gauridasa's house, he gave it to him, saying, quote, "With this, you should cross over the ocean of material existence, taking all the living entities with you." Unquote. So with this oar, he said you should cross the ocean of material existence and take all living entities with you. Interesting. A special oar. I wonder where that oar is now. Gauridas Pandit's elder brother, Suryadas Sarakali, had two daughters, Sri Vasudha and Janava Devi. Anybody know who they were? Those two are the wives of Lord Nityananda. He gave them in marriage to Lord Nityananda. Sri Vasudha and Janavi, they were sisters. Near the conclusion of his Navadvip pastimes, when Mahaprabhu desired to accept sannyas, he came to Kalna to bid farewell to Gauridas. At that time, Gauridas became extremely afflicted by separation. Hereafter is a nice song which describes what occurred at that time. So this is the song translated into English. In the Thakur Pandit's house, Lord Gauranga was dancing ecstatically, revolving around and around, while Lord Nityananda chanted, "Hari, Hari." Gauridas, however, was crying very piteously and incessantly. He fell at the Lord's feet and begged him, "Please, don't ever go away from here. Just honor this one request. Stay here in Ambika Nagar. This is my last submission at your lotus feet. If you go away, surely I'll die. Don't try to trick me like you did the gopis, giving some high philosophy about your Bhava Murti. I must keep you here in such a way that I can see you." You see, when Krishna, he left Vrindavana, he told the gopis, "I'll return. I'll return." But did he return? Actually, he did return. But even the time that he was gone, Krishna was there in his bhava expansion. You know, by remembrance of Krishna, he was there. "You two brothers just stay here with me. Thus everyone will become liberated. Again, I am petitioning you. Don't leave me, Guru Hari. Then I'll know that you are the deliverers of the fallen." Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu replied, "Gauridas, give up this idea. You can just serve my deity form, for I am personally present in that form also. You should know this to be a fact. Just accept what I am telling you as truth." Hearing this, Gauridas simply let out a deep sigh and continued to cry piteously. Again, the two brothers tried to console him, but his heart refused to be pacified. Dina Krishnadas is praying at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya that these two brothers might remain there. Thus the two of them were bound by the love of Gauridas, and therefore the Lord is known as a bhaktavatsal, or one who was affectionate to his devotees. Seeing that Gauridas was extremely distraught, Mahaprabhu spoke to him very gently. Quote, "All right, we'll stay with you. Know in all certainty that we two brothers will stay in your house." Unquote. Consoling him in this way, the two lords came before him in the company of two deities. Seeing the four of them standing before him, Panditji was astonished, and although tears continued to flow from his eyes, now it was not out of sadness. The Lord again spoke to him. Quote, "Whichever two you choose, you can keep in your room. Whichever two you can recognize as us will stay with you and depend on you to feed us." So he had deities, and then Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda also there in the moving forms. So now you take your choice. Having heard Mahaprabhu speak these words, Gauridas immediately began to cook. He fed all four of them sumptuously, and then offered them nice cloths and garlanded them with garlands of lotus flowers. Then he offered pan and betel nuts for chewing and smeared sandalwood paste on their bodies. By serving them in various ways, he gradually regained his former composure and at the same time decided which two he would keep in his house. So he's doing service for all four of these deities. Gauridas, it's amazing. Due to the Pandit's pure love, two lords remained with him and asked him to feed them when they were hungry, while the other two went to Nilachal Puri. Gauridas Pandit served his two lords according to their whims and enjoyed many pastimes with them. Praying at the lotus feet of such a rare devotee as Gauridas Pandit, Dina Krishnadas concludes his song. Becoming subservient to Gauridas' love, Sri Gaur Nityananda accepted the Archa Vigraha form and remained with him to enjoy sporting pastimes. One day, the two lords smilingly spoke to Panditji. "Gauridas, previously you were our friend Subal. Don't you remember how we used to play and frolic, enjoying different pastimes on the banks of the Jamuna?" Speaking in this sweet way, suddenly they took the form of Krishna and Balaram. Just like cowherd boys, they held buffalo horn, cane, and flutes in their hands. Their heads were decorated with peacock feathers, and around their necks were garlands of forest flowers, and their lotus feet were decorated with ankle bells. Gauridas also assumed his previous appearance, and in this way they enjoyed some fun together. After some time, Gauridas calmed himself, and the two lords again sat down on the Singhasana as Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. Every day, Gauridas used to cook many varieties of vegetables to offer them to their lordship. He was always absorbed in their service and never perceived his own bodily discomfort. As the years went by, gradually he attained a ripe old age. Nevertheless, he continued to serve his lordships as before, cooking many various preparations for them. Seeing that he was having to exert himself so much to do so much cooking, one day Sri Gaur Nityananda feigned anger and refused to eat. Panditji was in turn hurt by this and said, quote, "If you get happiness by not eating, then why do you have me cook in the first place?" Unquote. After saying this, he became silent. Lord Gauranga smiled and replied softly, quote, "Your cooking is no small accomplishment. You prepare rice and many varieties of vegetables. You won't listen if we request you not to make so much, but we can't bear to see your hard labor. Whatever you can prepare easily, that would be best, unquote. This is the kindness of Lord Chaitanya, you see. He could see he's elderly, it's difficult. So he wanted less. Hearing their statement, Gaudiya Dasa replied, quote, "Anyway, whatever I have prepared today, please accept that. From tomorrow, I won't feed you with so many preparations. I'll just put some sak on your plates," unquote. Having heard the reply of Gaudiya Dasa, the two lords laughed and began to eat. Sometimes Gaudiya Dasa desired to decorate their lordships with ornaments. Coming to know this, Sri Gaura Nityananda put on various ornaments and exhibited themselves in their full opulence. When Panditji entered the temple, he smiled with wonder. "Where did you get so many ornaments?" He was simply astonished in ecstasy. In this way, Sri Gaura Nityananda began to manifest their opulences through various sporting pastimes in Gaudiya Dasa's house. Gaudiya Dasa's dearmost disciple was Hridayananda. One time, on the occasion of Lord Gaurasundar's birth anniversary, Gaudiya Dasa went to visit some of his disciples. At the time of going, he left Hridayananda in charge of worshipping the deities, which Hridayananda began to do in full love. Gradually, the appearance day of Mahaprabhu drew very near. When there were only 3 days remaining, still Gaudiya Dasa hadn't returned home yet. Hridayananda deliberated for some time about what should be done, and finally, being prompted on his own, sent out invitations to all the devotees and disciples to attend the festival of Gaur Purnim, which is coming up. Oh no, we're having Janmashtami soon, actually. Just after that, Gaudiya Dasa returned. Hridayananda informed his Gurudev that he had written out invitations and had then sent them to the devotees. Within himself, Gaudiya Dasa was very pleased by Hridayananda's service, but externally he feigned great anger and said, quote, "Even in my presence you should show so much independence, sending out invitations hither and thither. Anyway, whatever this upstart has done is done, but he won't be able to remain here." He expected, actually he wasn't angry, but he was expressing that. Hearing this, Hridayananda offered his obeisances and went to sit underneath a tree on the banks of the Ganga. Shortly thereafter, a rich man passing by in a boat hailed Hridayananda, wishing to make a donation. But instead of accepting the donation himself, Hridayananda sent him to his guru. However, Gaudiya Dasa sent him back to Hridayananda and told him to accept the donation and with it hold a festival on the banks of the Ganga. As per the order of his guru, Hridayananda began to make the necessary preparations. Gradually the people that he had sent invitations to began to arrive, but upon hearing that a festival was being held on the Ganges riverbank, they proceeded there first. In the company of the many devotees, Hridayananda chanted and danced ecstatically. The Sankirtan was so blissful and attractive that their lordships themselves, Sri Gaur Nityananda, came to take part in the dancing and singing. They jumped off the altar. They left the temple and went to the kirtan. Imagine, sometimes we have some pretty nice kirtans here. Imagine Gaur-Nitai, they jump off the altar and join us in the kirtan. That'd be pretty ecstatic, huh? This is what happened. They jumped off the altar and joined the kirtan. Meanwhile, Gaudiya Dasa was holding a festival in his house. Now remember, Gaudiya Dasa is the guru of Hridayananda. When the time came for making an offering, the Pujari, Bhoro Gangadas Pandit, entered the deity room only to find that there were no deities. He immediately informed Gaudiya Dasa. Gaudiya Dasa could understand the matter very well, and, smiling, he picked up a stick and proceeded towards the kirtan festival on the banks of the Ganges. Arriving there, he saw the two transcendental brothers, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, engaged in ecstatic dancing. Sri Sri Gaur Nityananda also saw Gaudiya Dasa approaching in an angry mood with a stick in his hand, and they quickly and silently entered the temple of Hridayananda's heart. They jumped into Hridayananda's heart silently. Seeing this, Gaudiya Dasa couldn't restrain his tears of ecstasy. He forgot his anger and ran towards Hridayananda with his arms outstretched. Firmly embracing him, he said, "You are the most fortunate. From today on, your name is Hridaya Chaitanya," because Lord Chaitanya had jumped into his heart. From Hridayananda to Hridaya Chaitanya. Gaudiya Dasa began to bathe him with his tears as Hridayananda fell at his lotus feet. Then Gaudiya Dasa took Hridaya Chaitanya and all the devotees to his courtyard, where intense chanting and dancing continued. The assembled Vaishnavas filled the day with the vibrations of Hari Hari. In this way, the birth anniversary celebration of Gaurasundara was observed. Thereafter, Gaudiya Dasa Pandit appointed Hridayananda or Hridaya Chaitanya as a sevaka of the deities. Gaudiya Dasa Pandit ki jai, Rupa Goswami ki jai, Hridaya Chaitanya ki jai. Any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, Vijay Krishna, please.
Thank you, Vijay Prabhu. My humble obeisances and all glories to your wonderful class. Prabhu, the quote from the purport, Canto 5, Chapter 3, Text 3, is as follows. No, quote, "No one is more attractive or more authoritative than Lord Krsna. That is one of the differences between God and an ordinary living being." End quote. Prabhu, my question is, in what measure obedience to authority is beneficial for a conditioned living entity?
Well, in Kali Yuga, sometimes authorities aren't very good authorities. So we have to be a little aware. Many devotees have been unfortunately misguided by even gurus, by temple presidents. Even there was an instance where one temple president had left the movement, and Prabhupada asked the GBC member, "Well, did he take any money?" And the GBC said no. And Prabhupada said, "Well, good then." Because so many temple presidents, authorities, had left the movement taking a lot of money with them. Very disturbing. Yeah. So, yeah, in Kali Yuga, we have to be intelligent and take guidance from those whom we can see are authorities. And Krishna is pleased by that. But we have to be careful, because we can be misguided, we can be misled. It's okay?
Yes, better than okay. Wonderful answer to my question, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. You have a question? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki? Yeah.